Adiz walked into the high-end jewelry shop, her heart heavy, but her face carrying a tired smile. She'd been working here for months, but every day felt like a battle. Her manager, Yvonne, treated her more like a servant than a sales assistant. Whenever Adiz made a sale, Yvonne found a way to take her commission, leaving her with nothing. On most days, Ada was sent to run errands instead of actually selling. She picked up dry cleaning, fetched coffee, and even cleaned the vault room while the other workers attended to wealthy customers. You should be grateful. You don't belong here anyway. The senior staff weren't any better. They stole her clients, laughed at her simple clothes, and gave her the hardest tasks. But Ada never complained. She needed this job. Before we begin, remember this. While the story you're about to hear is fictional, the message behind it is very real. At Tales by Uncle Frank, we believe the right story at the right moment can change a life. One afternoon, as Ada carefully arranged some expensive diamond necklaces, the glass door swung open. An old woman walked in. Her clothes were worn out, her slippers were thin, and her hair was tied in a messy scarf. The other workers wrinkled their noses in disgust. "Madam, you can't be here," one of them sneered. "This is a luxury store." The old woman smiled, showing yellowed teeth. "I just want to look around," she said softly. Yvonne walked over, her heels clicking against the polished floor. She looked her up and down, then snorted. We don't serve people like you. This is a shop for high-class clients, not beggars." The other workers laughed cruelly. Adiz's heart ached. She knew what it felt like to be looked down on. She quickly walked over and gently touched the old woman's arm. "Would you like some water?" she asked kindly. The old woman's eyes lit up. "That would be nice." Adiz ignored the stares and whispers of her colleagues as she brought her a cold glass of water. She helped her sit down and smiled. "Take your time, Mama," she said warmly. "Let me know if you need help." The old woman touched her hand gently. Her skin was rough and full of wrinkles. She looked at her like she was the first kind person she had met in a long time. "Good things happen to good people. Remember that, my dear." Adiz didn't know why, but her words touched her heart. The old woman finished her water and smiled at Adiz, her wrinkled hands resting on the table. "You are a kind girl, Ada. Help me pick out 10 luxury jewelry sets." Ada blinked in surprise. 10. "Yes," she nodded. "I want the best. The finest diamonds, gold bangles, and custom rings." Ada's heart raced with excitement. This could be her biggest sale ever. Maybe Blessing would finally see her worth. Maybe today was her lucky day. She quickly began selecting the most elegant pieces, carefully choosing sets that matched the old woman's requests. She polished the gold, opened velvet boxes, and even found matching earrings for the necklaces. The other workers stood at a distance, whispering amongst themselves. "That girl is such a fool," one of them snickered. "She's clearly broke," another laughed. Yvonne folded her arms and watched with an amused smirk. "Let's see how this turns out," she murmured. After nearly an hour, Ada laid out the final selection. "Mama, I think these will look great," she said cheerfully. The old woman clapped her hands together. "I'll take them all." Ada beamed with joy. "That will be 150 million naira, Mama," she said excitedly. The room fell silent. The other employees raised their eyebrows and Yvonne smirked. The old woman patted her pockets, then chuckled softly. "Oh dear, I don't have any money on me." Adiz's smile froze. The shop erupted into laughter. "Are you kidding me?" one of the senior staff shrieked. "You wasted all that time on a poor old woman." Yvonne's eyes gleamed with amusement. She slowly walked toward Ada, her expensive perfume filling the air. "You really are stupid, aren't you?" Yvonne sneered. "You actually thought this old fool could afford those diamonds?" Ada turned to the old woman. "Mama, you don't have any money." The old woman sighed. "I do, but it's with my grandson. He's very rich. I just need to find him." Yvonne burst into laughter. Her grandson. "Oh, how convenient." She turned to the other workers. "You hear that, ladies? This homeless old woman is looking for her rich grandson. The staff howled with laughter, their voices filled with mockery. Adiz felt her face burn with embarrassment, but she refused to look away from the old woman's sad eyes. Instead of yelling or arguing, she simply smiled softly. "It's okay, Mama. Don't worry about it." The laughter stopped. Yvonne narrowed her eyes. "Excuse me? Are you really going to stand here and act like a fool?" Ada ignored her. "Here, Mama," she said softly, pressing some money into her hands. "At least take this for a taxi home." The old woman stared at her in shock, her hands trembling as she took the money. "You are a rare sort," she whispered. Yvonne scoffed and took a step closer, her voice sharp and cold. "I warned you, Ada. I told you not to bring filth into this shop, but you didn't listen. Crest Group has a class to maintain. This store is part of the most exclusive jewelry empire, and you're ruining our image. You're fired. Get out of my store." Adiz took a deep breath, blinking back tears. She picked up her bag, turned on her heels, and walked out of the store without another word. She didn't know why, but something felt different as she disappeared down the street. The old woman stood there, watching her leave with a knowing smile. She had no idea her life was about to change forever. As Adiz walked out of the shop, her heart heavy, the old woman turned to Yvonne, her face calm but firm. "You should not judge people based on their appearance," she said softly. "Kindness is more valuable than expensive diamonds." Yvonne rolled her eyes. "Oh, please spare me the lecture, old woman." She crossed her arms and smirked. "Do you know where you are? This is a billion-dollar empire for the elite. People like you don't belong." To the old woman shook her head. "Wealth is not just about money, young lady. It is about the heart." Yvonne's face darkened with anger. "That's it. Security." 2 security guards rushed forward. "Escort this woman out now," Yvonne ordered. "She has no right to stand here and lecture me." The guards grabbed the old woman's arms, but she simply chuckled. "There is no need for force, my dear. I am leaving." With one last glance at Yvonne, she walked out of the shop, stepping into the bright afternoon sun. Yvonne smirked in victory while the other staff laughed. Little did she know she had just made the biggest mistake of her life. The old woman halted a taxi and got inside, giving the driver her address. As the car moved through the busy streets of Lagos, she looked out of the window, her mind filled with thoughts. She had seen true kindness today, and she had seen true cruelty. When the taxi pulled up in front of a massive estate, the driver's eyes widened in shock. "Mama, is this your house?" he stammered. The old woman only smiled and handed him the fare. She stepped out and walked through the golden gates of her mansion. Inside, everything was luxurious. Marble floors, golden chandeliers, and walls decorated with famous paintings. At the center of the grand living room stood Emeka, the powerful CEO of Crest Group. Handsome, sharp-eyed, and dressed in an expensive suit, he looked every bit the billionaire he was. Grandmother Emeka's deep voice filled the room as he rushed forward. "Where have you been for hours?" The old woman smiled. "Emeka was testing the world, my boy, and I met a very kind soul." Emeka frowned. Testing the world. The old woman sighed and told him everything. How she had entered the shop, how the staff had mocked her, and how Adiz was the only one who treated her with kindness. When she finished, Emeka's expression turned cold. "They treated you like that?" His jaw clenched. "They threw you out of our store?" His grandmother nodded. Emeka's hands tightened into fists. "That shop belongs to Crest Group. They work for me. How dare they throw out my grandmother?" The old woman placed a hand on her grandson's arm, her voice calm. The girl was different. She was kind, and she must be rewarded. Emeka turned to his assistant, a sharp-dressed man named Segan. "Get me the security footage from the shop," he ordered. Minutes later, Emeka sat in his private office watching the footage on a large screen. He saw everything. Ada ignoring the insults, still treating her with respect. Ada taking out her own money and giving it to her. Emeka leaned back in his chair, his expression serious. "Find her," he said at last. Segan, his assistant, hesitated. Sir, find this woman. I want to know everything about her. I want to see her. Segan nodded and hurried out. Emeka sat alone in his office watching the screen once more. A kind and innocent girl. Who was she? Adiz walked slowly down the street, her feet aching and her heart heavy. She was jobless with no idea where her next meal would come from. She had given her last money to the old woman, and now she had nothing. The afternoon sun burned her skin as she clutched her bag tightly. She took a deep breath trying not to cry. Then suddenly, a black luxury car rolled to a smooth stop beside her. Ada froze. The car was sleek, polished, and more expensive than anything she had ever seen up close. The tinted window rolled down, and a man in a sharp suit leaned out. "Miss Ka?" he asked, his voice professional and firm. Ada's heart pounded. "Yes," the man smiled politely. "My name is Segan. I am the personal assistant to Mr. Emeka, CEO of Crest Group." Ada's breath caught in her throat. "Crest Group," Segan continued. "My employer would like to meet you. Please come with." Ada stared in shock. This had to be a scam. Why would the CEO of a billion-dollar company want to see her? She took a step back. I think you have the wrong person." The maker shook his head. "No, we don't. The woman you helped sent me personally to bring you to the estate. You will be perfectly safe." Ada hesitated, her mind racing. This was crazy. It made no sense. And yet something inside her whispered, "Go." She swallowed hard, then finally nodded. "Okay." Segan opened the car door and Ada slid into the softest leather seat she had ever felt. As the car pulled away, she nervously clutched her bag, staring out the window. This was the biggest risk of her life. The moment the car passed through the Golden Gates, Adiz's eyes widened in shock. The mansion before her was massive, the kind of place she had only seen in movies. The driveway stretched endlessly, leading to a grand estate with towering marble pillars and glowing chandeliers. As the car stopped, uniformed staff rushed forward to open the door for her. Adiz stepped out, feeling like she had entered another world. "Please, this way," Segan said, guiding her toward the grand entrance. Everything was polished, extravagant, and perfect. And then she saw him at the top of the marble staircase, standing tall and elegant, was Emeka. Ada froze in place. She had only ever seen his face in magazines and business articles, but in real life, he was even more sophisticated, more powerful looking, and more breathtakingly handsome than she had imagined. Everyone in the city knew that name. Emeka, the youngest billionaire, the most successful CEO, the man every woman dreamed of. Ada suddenly remembered Yvonne's words at work. "If I ever meet Emeka," Yvonne had once said, "I'll make sure he falls in love with me." And now he was standing right in front of her. Ada felt like she was in a dream. Emeka's gaze was sharp, but his lips curled into a small knowing smile. "Miss Adiz," he said smoothly. "I'm Emeka." Ada forced herself to breathe. "I am Ada," she said nervously. Emeka's smile widened just slightly, as if he found her reaction amusing. Then suddenly, there she is. "Ada, my dear, thank you for coming." Ada smiled in relief. You live here?" "Oh yes, my dear. I'm not as poor as I seemed, am I?" Adiz felt her knees go weak. This wealthy, powerful family, and she had unknowingly helped its grandmother. She suddenly felt so small in this grand place. Mama turned to Emeka and said firmly, "This is the kind of woman you should marry." Ada gasped. She laughed shyly, waving her hands. "Oh, no. That's not." But when she looked at Emeka, she froze. He wasn't laughing. He wasn't smirking. And he was just staring at her, a long silent stare. And for some reason, it made Adiz's heart race. Adiz sat in the grand living room of the mansion, feeling completely out of place. The soft glow of the chandelier, the expensive velvet couch beneath her, and the quiet hum of servants moving about. It all felt unreal. Across from her, Emeka sat with his usual unreadable expression. "I ran a background check on you," he said calmly. Adiz's heart skipped a beat. "What?" Emeka leaned back in his chair. "I wanted to know more about the girl who gave my grandmother her last money." And I found out something interesting. Ada swallowed hard. What did you find out? Emeka's gaze softened just slightly. You live alone. No family, no one to support you. His voice wasn't mocking or pitying, just a statement of fact. Adiz looked down, gripping her dress. He was right. She had been on her own for a long time, but hearing it said aloud hurt. Emeka sighed and gestured to Segan. Bring them in, he said. Within moments, servants entered the room carrying multiple boxes, large, elegant, wrapped in gold ribbons. Adiz's eyes widened. What? What is this? A thank you gift, Emeka said simply. For helping my grandmother. One servant opened a box revealing designer outfits and expensive silk fabrics. Another opened a second box. It was a luxury jewelry set worth more than Ada's yearly salary. And then Segan stepped forward holding a small black box. Ada's breath caught as he flipped it open. Inside was a set of car keys. A Range Rover. Emeka said. It's yours. Adiz's jaw dropped. What? No. No. I can't accept this. Emeka raised an eyebrow. Why not? Ada shook her head firmly. I didn't help Mama because I wanted anything in return. I did it because it was the right thing to do. Emeka stared at her as if trying to understand her. You're refusing a Range Rover? He asked as if no one had ever done that before. Ada nodded. Yes. Yes. Emeka was silent for a long moment. Then to her surprise, he smiled. A small genuine smile. You're different, he murmured. The old woman, who had been quietly watching, suddenly clapped her hands. Then, if you won't accept the gifts, at least stay with us for a while. Adiz's head snapped up. Stay here. Yes, she nodded eagerly. I enjoy your company, Ada. Please stay with me in this house for a little while. Ada hesitated. The idea of living in this grand place felt overwhelming. But the old woman's eyes pleaded with kindness, and in the end, she couldn't say no. Days later, Adiz had barely adjusted to life in the mansion when trouble arrived. A sleek red convertible sped through the gates, the engine roaring. The second it stopped, a woman in designer heels stepped out, her lips pursed in irritation. Chioma. Ada didn't know her. But the moment Chioma's icy gaze landed on her, she knew exactly what was coming. Chioma stormed into the mansion, her heels clicking loudly against the marble floor. Emeka, she called out, her voice filled with fake sweetness. Emeka walked in, adjusting the cuff of his designer suit. His expression remained cool. Chioma. Chioma's sharp eyes flickered toward Adiz, and instantly her face twisted into disgust. And who is this? She asked, her voice dripping with venom. Before Adiz could speak, Mama smiled cheerfully. This is Adiz, my dear guest. Chioma laughed coldly. Guest in this mansion? Are you serious? She turned back to Emeka. Who is she really? A maid? Some social climber trying to get close to you? Adiz's hands clenched. But before she could defend herself, Emeka spoke first. She is none of those things, he said, his voice firm. She is our guest, and you will show her respect. Chioma froze, her lips parting in shock. Adiz stared at Emeka in surprise. Chioma quickly composed herself, flipping her hair. Respect. Emeka, open your eyes. She is poor. She doesn't belong here. Emeka's jaw tightened. And yet, she is here. Chioma crossed her arms, a fake smile on her lips. Let me guess. She's pretending to be innocent while planning to steal your money. Ada finally spoke. I am not here for anyone's money. Chioma scoffed. Oh, please. I've seen women like you before. You act humble, but the moment a rich man notices you, suddenly you're in love. Adiz's face burned, but before she could reply, Emeka stepped forward. His expression was dangerous. Now that's enough, Chioma. Chioma blinked. What? I said that's enough. His voice was calm but cold. Adiz is grandmother's guest. You will not insult her again. I said that's enough. Chioma's mouth opened and closed, completely shocked. She had expected Emeka to agree with her. She had expected him to throw Ada out. But instead, he was defending her. And she knew one thing for sure. This girl was a threat. Chioma had always known that Emeka wasn't in love with her. But she didn't care as long as he gave her access to maintain her luxury lifestyle. The designer bags, the first-class vacations, the expensive jewelry, that was all that mattered. And now some low-life girl was ruining everything. Chioma wasn't about to sit still and watch her perfect arrangement slip away. No, she would get rid of Adiz one way or another. She angrily stormed out of the house. Meanwhile, in the quiet of his private room, Mama sat comfortably in her large armchair, sipping tea. Across from her stood Ia, his arms crossed. "Grandmother, why did you call me here?" Mama set her cup down and looked her grandson in the eye. "That girl, Chioma, she's not the one for you. You've said this before." Mama cut him off. "If you marry a woman like her, you'll regret it for life." Ia exhaled, rubbing his temple. "Grandmother, I have no plans to marry Chioma or anyone else for that matter." Mama nodded approvingly. "Good. A woman like Chioma only loves money and will leave when things are no longer smooth." Emeka said nothing, but his mind was full of thoughts about Ada. The next morning, Ada found Mama and Emeka in the breakfast lounge. She cleared her throat softly. Mama, Mr. Sorry, Emeka. There is something I've been meaning to tell you." Both looked at her. I need to find a job," she said hesitantly. "I've been here for days and I can't just stay for free. I need to earn my own money." Emeka raised an eyebrow. "A job?" Ada nodded. "Yes. I can't take advantage of your kindness. I want to work and be independent." Emeka leaned back in his chair, thinking for a moment. "I actually need a personal assistant." "What?" Emeka folded his arms. "You're looking for a job?" "I'm looking for a PA, seems like the perfect solution." Ada gasped. "Work at Crest Group head office." Emeka nodded. "The position has been open for weeks. I need someone hardworking and trustworthy." He paused before adding, "You fit that description." Adiz stared at him overwhelmed. This job, it was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. It would pay more than she had ever earned before. With her first salary, she would become more independent. But working at Crest Group headquarters as Emeka's PA, that was too much. I don't know," Adiz murmured. The old woman who had been listening quietly suddenly grinned. "My dear," she said gently. "You should take this chance." Ada bit her lip. "But no buts. You deserve something good in life. You helped me when you didn't even know who I was. Let us help you now." Emeka watched her closely. "So, what will it be?" Adiz hesitated, then took a deep breath and nodded. "Okay," she said softly. "I'll do it." Mama's eyes twinkled with happiness. She had a secret plan. This job would bring Adiz closer to Emeka. And maybe, just maybe, it would change both of their lives forever. The following morning, Adiz stepped into the Grand Crest Group headquarters dressed in a simple but elegant outfit. She held her bag tightly, feeling a mix of nerves and excitement. The lobby was huge, filled with marble floors and glass walls. Employees in expensive suits walked briskly, carrying files and speaking in crisp tones. She had never worked in a place like this before. As she reached the reception desk, a woman in a tight black dress gave her a cold stare. "You must be Ada," she said, eyeing her from head to toe. "Yes," Ada replied politely. The woman's lips curled amusement. "So, you're the one who got the PA position." Ada nodded slowly. Another employee, a woman in a red suit, whispered loudly to her colleague. "I heard she slept with the CEO to get the job." Adiz's heart sank. Another woman snickered. "Or maybe she's a secret mistress." More whispers and laughter filled the room. Adiz felt her cheeks burn. She wanted to scream, "That's not true." But she held her head high and said nothing. Let them talk. She was here to work. She would prove them all wrong. Chioma, on the other hand, was furious. It was bad enough that Adiz was living in the Okafor mansion, but now she had joined Crest Group and not just anywhere. She was working directly under Emeka. Chioma had spent years trying to tie herself to Emeka, making sure Northwest other woman got close. She had built an image that she was his future wife, the only woman who truly belonged beside him. And then came Adiz, ruining everything. Chioma stormed through the office, her heels clicking sharply against the marble floor, her face twisted with anger. She needed to get rid of Adiz fast. Chioma wasted no time. As a senior manager in the company, she had power and she knew exactly how to use it. By the end of the day, rumors were everywhere. She's only close to Emeka for his money. She must have seduced him. She's a gold-digging social climber. The whispers that had once been behind Adiz's back now became open insults. When she walked into the break room, everyone went silent. Then someone laughed mockingly. "Look who it is." One of the employees smirked. "How does it feel to climb your way to the top by sleeping with the boss? Maybe I should try getting close to the CEO, too." Who knew it was this easy? Ada felt her chest tighten. She wanted to scream that none of it was true, but she knew it wouldn't matter. They had already judged her and it was all because of Chioma. The gossip reached Emeka's ears by lunchtime, and when he found out who started it, his patience snapped. At a company-wide meeting that afternoon, Emeka walked into the boardroom, his presence immediately demanding attention. Everyone went silent. Chioma sat at the head of the table, smug, thinking had finally realized Ada was a problem. Instead, his piercing gaze landed directly on her. "Chidinma," he said coldly. She flipped her hair, putting on a sweet smile. "Yes, darling." Ia's jaw tightened. "Adiz saved my grandmother's life without asking for anything in return. She is more of a human being than you will ever be." The room fell into dead silence. Chioma's smile vanished instantly. Adiz's heart skipped a beat. Emeka wasn't done. He turned to the rest of the room. "If I hear one more word about Adiz that isn't work-related, I'll personally fire the person responsible." Murmurs spread through the employees. Chioma's face burned with humiliation. She had never been spoken to like this before. Emeka had humiliated her in front of everyone. At that moment, Adiz felt something stir in her heart. She had never had anyone stand up for her like that before. She looked at Emeka, her eyes softening. Maybe he wasn't as cold as she thought. Chioma marched straight into Emeka's office, slamming the door. "How dare you embarrass me like that?" she shrieked. Emeka barely looked up from his desk. "You should watch your tone, Chidma. Watch, my people have always seen me as your future wife. Do you know what this does to my image?" Emeka finally looked at her, his expression icy cold. "You should have thought about that before you started a campaign of lies against someone to you," he said sharply. Chioma's lips trembled. "You're choosing her over me?" Emeka sighed, rubbing his temple. "Chioma, you know we were never together." Chioma froze. "We have never dated. I never asked you to be my girlfriend. I never gave you a reason to think we were more than acquaintances." Chioma staggered back as if she had been slapped. "So stop being possessive, Chioma." I have never belonged to. Chioma's hands shook. She had spent years in his shadow, building an image of a relationship that never existed, thinking since he hadn't opposed the rumors before, it would probably become true one day. And now, with just a few words, he had shattered it completely. Without another word, she stormed out of the office, her face red with anger. As days passed, Emeka and Adiz worked closely together. At first, it was just business. Ada worked hard, ignoring the stares and whispers. But then something changed. Emeka found himself watching her more than he should. He found himself waiting for her smile. He found himself making excuses just to talk to her. And one evening, as they were working late in his office, he finally said it. "Ada," he said suddenly, leaning against his desk. She looked up from her laptop. "Yes." He hesitated for a second, just a second, then said, "Go out with me." Adiz's fingers froze over the keyboard. Her heart stopped for a moment. She blinked rapidly, thinking she had misheard. "Wait, what?" Emeka chuckled. "I said, go out with me. Ada's breath caught in her throat. Emeka, the man she had seen in magazines, the man every woman in the city dreamed of, was asking her out. She stared at him. Are you serious? Emeka smiled. I don't joke about things like this. Ada's hands clenched into fists. I don't know if I can. This is too much. You're your IA. Just what? Just a girl helped my grandmother when no one else did. Just a girl who refused money because she wanted to earn her own way. Adi's heart pounded in her chest. But what about Chioma? She asked. Emeka reached for her hand, his touch warm and steady. She demise is the daughter of my late father's friend. Our relationship isn't what you think. Ada searched his eyes, looking for any sign of dishonesty, but she found none. And slowly, hesitantly, she nodded. Okay, she whispered. I'll go out with you. Emeka smiled. And at that moment, everything changed. When the old woman found out that Emeka and Ada were dating, she was overjoyed. This is wonderful news. Finally, my grandson has opened his eyes to see what is right before him. She adored Ada from the moment she had selflessly helped her in the shop. She had known she was special. But the rest of the world, they weren't as kind. Within days, celebrity gossip sites exploded with headlines. Billionaire CEO Iena caught between two women. Is he dating his PA? Chioma Williams, Emeka's longtime companion, loses her spot to a nobody. The media frenzy painted Emeka as a cheating playboy, and the rumors spread like wildfire. Chioma used this as an opportunity. She went to every reporter she could, pretending to be the heartbroken woman Emeka had betrayed. Oh, I have been together for years. She lied in an interview. I never thought he would. She stopped dramatically. Well, everyone understood her hidden insult. She was calling Adiz a nobody, a gold digger, and Chioma's plan almost worked until it met the old woman. She was not a woman to be played with. The day after Chioma's interview, she called a press conference in front of the estate. Cameras flashed, reporters crowded in, and the world watched live. She cleared her throat, her voice firm and strong. I am here to set the record straight. My grandson Emeka is not dating two women. Murmurs spread through the crowd. I want the world to know that Chioma has never been in a relationship with my grandson. She is nothing more than a family friend, she said coldly. Chioma, watching from her penthouse, screamed in frustration. But Mama wasn't done. My grandson has only one woman in his life, and I want everyone to know that I only have one daughter-in-law in mind. She smiled warmly and gestured toward the side. Ada, standing nervously in a simple but elegant dress, was brought forward. I want my grandson to marry Adiz, she declared. She's the kind of woman I needs in his life. The crowd went wild. Chioma's jaw dropped. Ada gasped. Wait, what? The flashes of cameras blinded her. Reporters yelled questions. Emeka turned toward her, studying her reaction. He hadn't proposed yet, but he had thought about it. And hearing his grandmother say it out loud made him realize something. He wanted to marry her. Chioma, watching from her penthouse, gritted her teeth in rage. Adiz wasn't just a kinga from her. She was taking everything she had built. And there was only one person left who could stop this. Chioma picked up her phone and dialed quickly. The voice on the other end answered sharply. Chioma, how are you? Chioma forced herself to sound calm. Mama Emeka, she said sweetly. You should know a gold digger is after your son. There was a pause. Then Ngozi Emeka's powerful aristocratic mother spoke coldly. Explain, Chioma smirked. Her name is Ada. She's a nobody, a social climber. She tricked your mother into thinking she's innocent and now she wants her to marry Emeka. There was silence, but then Ngozi's voice came through cold and sharp. I'll be on the next flight home. Chioma smiled. Ada had no idea what was coming for her. Ia was in his office when his phone buzzed. Mother calling. He sighed, rubbing his head before picking up. Mother Emeka, I assume you've heard the news. I expect you to fix it immediately. Ngozi said firmly. Emeka's jaw tightened. There's nothing to fix. Oh, really? His mother's voice was filled with disapproval. I just arrived back home and the first thing I see is the media parading some random girl as your future wife. This is unacceptable. Emika's patience was wearing thin. Adiz is not some random girl. I love her, Mom. Chioma, who had been eavesdropping nearby, smirked. She pushed open the office door dramatically and stepped inside. You know what the easiest solution is. Emika turned to her, his expression icy. Chioma flashed him a sweet smile. Just break up with Ada, she said simply. Problem solved. Emika's face darkened. Chioma, get out of my office, he said slowly. Chioma's smile faltered. Emika was just trying to get out. Chioma's face turned red, but she had no choice but to leave. As soon as the door shut behind her, Ngozi's voice came through the phone again. Emika, I'm coming over to your place tonight. We will discuss this in person, and I expect you to make the right decision. The call ended abruptly. Emika set his phone down, his jaw clenched. That night, Ada sat alone in the mansion's garden, staring at the bright stars above. Her mind was heavy with thoughts. She was falling in love with Emika. She could feel it. But now his mother was back and from what she had heard, Mommy Emika was not an easy woman to impress. Emika walked toward her, his presence calming. You've been quiet. I don't want to come between you and your mother. Emika tilted her chin up gently, making her look into his eyes. You're not, he assured her. But what if she never accepts me? Ada whispered. Emika didn't hesitate. Then that's her loss. Adiz's heart pounded. He cupped her face, his eyes filled with warmth. Adiz, I don't care what the world thinks, he said softly. I don't care about the media or Chioma or even my mother's opinions. You are the only one I want. He said. Adiz felt tears prick her eyes. She had spent her whole life alone. No one had ever stood up for her like this. Later that night, Emika stood in his office, arms crossed, his expression serious as Neka stormed in. His mother was a woman of grace and power, always dressed in elegant designer outfits, her presence commanding. But today, her carefully controlled composure was cracking. Emika, what on earth do you think you're doing? Emika sighed. He had been expecting this. I assume this is about Adiz. Na narrowed her eyes. You assume correctly. This girl, this nobody has tricked Adiz sees your wealth and power. She's using you to climb the social ladder. Emika's jaw tightened. Ada is not using me, he said firmly. She didn't even want to accept my gifts. She hasn't demanded anything from me since I met her. She works hard, his mother scoffed. Works hard, please. The only thing she's working hard on is securing a ring on her finger. Emika's eyes darkened. Mother, you don't know Adiz. And if you refuse to give her a chance, that's on you. Ngozi clenched her fists. But I am not leaving her. Rage flashing in her eyes. I'm your mother, Emika. I know what's best for you. Emika took a deep breath, his voice calm, but unwavering. And I a grown man, mother. I make my own decisions. Ngozi stared at him, her lips pressed into a thin line. You regret this, she said icily before walking out of the office. Emika exhaled, running a hand through his hair. His mother was wrong about Ada, but he had no idea that someone else was planning something much worse. Chioma was losing her mind. Emika had never officially been hers. But in her head, he belonged to her. And now that he had chosen Ada, she had one last move left. She needed to destroy Ada completely. Late that evening, when no one was watching, she slipped into the family's private jewelry vault. Inside, expensive diamonds, necklaces, and rings sparkled under the dim lights. Chioma carefully picked one of the most valuable pieces, a diamond-studded necklace worth millions, and slid it into a small bag. Then, with a smirk, she walked straight toward Adiz's bedroom. The next morning, Ada was getting ready for work when suddenly the mansion doors burst open. Guards stormed in and behind them stood Ngozi Chioma and several members of the family. Adiz's heart pounded. What's going on? A guard stepped forward. Where's Ka? We need you to come with us. Why? Ada asked, confused. Chioma stepped forward, her eyes full of fake tears. I didn't want to believe it, but we found the missing necklace in your room. Ada froze. What? She gasped. Chioma dramatically covered her mouth. Emeka was so shocked when the maids found it. I thought you were a good person, but now I see you were only after the family wealth. Ada staggered back, her vision blurring with panic. No, I didn't take anything. Ngozi crossed her arms. I knew it. A thief. Ada felt her heart breaking. And then enough. Everyone turned as the old woman stepped forward. Her expression was calm, but deadly serious. Adiz is not a thief. I know this girl. She has too much integrity for something like this. We are missing something. Chioma's face stiffened in panic, but she quickly forced out a sob. Mama, I know you care for her. But the evidence means nothing. We will investigate this thoroughly. Ngozi frowned, but said nothing. Adiz's eyes burned with tears. She had done nothing wrong. But no matter how much the old woman defended her, the whispers of the family, the guards, and the staff all pointed at her. They looked at her like she was guilty. It was too much. With one last glance at Emeka's room, she turned away, packed her few things, and walked out of the mansion. Emeka tried to stop her, but his grandmother gestured for him to let her go for now. The following morning, Ada sat in her small apartment, staring at the empty walls. She felt like she had lost everything. When a knock came at her door, she opened it only to stumble back in shock. Ngozi stood there perfectly dressed, her face unreadable. Adiz's heart raced. Mrs. Okafor Mama, Ngozi stepped inside, looking around with mild disgust at the small space. Then she turned to Adiz, her expression calm but cold. I came to make you an offer, she said. Adiz swallowed. What offer? Ngozi pulled out a checkbook, clicked her pen, and wrote down a number. Then she ripped out the check and placed it on the table. Adiz's breath caught in her throat. $5 million if you leave Emeka forever. This is yours. Ada's hands shook. She looked at the money, looked at Ngozi, then with tears in her eyes, she picked up the check and tore it in half. Ngozi stiffened in shock. I love your son, Adiz whispered. But I will never take money to walk away. I am not a gold digger. For a moment, the room was silent. Then Ngozi smiled slightly. It wasn't a warm smile, but it was respectful. You're stronger than I thought, she murmured. Then, without another word, she turned and walked out. Ada sank to the floor, tears spilling down her face. Was this the end? Back at the mansion, Emeka had remained silent after Ada walked out. He had watched her leave, his chest tightening, but he hadn't stopped her because he knew words wouldn't be enough. Ada had been wrongly accused, humiliated, and cast aside, and the only way to bring her back was to clear her name completely. So, while the world thought he had done nothing, Emeka was already working. He reviewed every piece of security footage from that night. He spoke to the guards, the staff, the maids, and when he found what he was looking for, he knew exactly how to expose Kayamar for good. That afternoon, Emeka stormed into the estate hall, his presence commanding silence. Kayamar, dressed in an elegant gown, was already there, sipping tea like nothing had happened. She saw Emeka enter and smirked. Emeka, I know you're hurting, but shut up, Chidma. Emeka cut her off coldly. The room fell silent. Ngozi, the old woman, and the rest of the family were present, watching curiously. Chioma's smirk faltered. What? Emeka's eyes darkened with fury. You framed Adiz. You stole the necklace. You planted in her room. Emeka, that's ridiculous. Emeka raised a remote control and pressed play. A large screen lit up in the room. Security footage from the mansion played in front of everyone. There she was, Chioma sneaking into the jewelry vault. Chioma taking the diamond necklace. Chioma slipping into Ada's room. Gasps filled the air. Ngozi's eyes widened in shock. The old woman shook her head in disappointment. Chioma's face went pale. No, she whispered, stumbling back. This is a lie. It's fake. Emika's lips curled into a cold smirk. Is it? The guard stepped forward. Miss Chioma, you need to leave this estate immediately. Chioma panicked. Emika, please. I did it because I love you. Emika's expression didn't change. You love power, Chioma, and you chose to frame an innocent person for it. Chioma screamed in rage as the guards dragged her out of the mansion. Her dream of marrying Emika was destroyed. Her reputation ruined. Chioma Williams had finally lost everything. After Chioma was thrown out, Ngozi sat silently for a long moment. Then she exhaled deeply. I misjudge Adiz. She never wanted money. She never wanted status. She just wanted a Kenna. Mama smiled knowingly. It's about time you realize that. Ngozi's lips twitched slightly. Then for the first time, she nodded. I think, she said quietly. I'd like to speak with her again. Adiz sat in her small apartment staring at the ceiling. She had refused millions to leave Emika, but she had already lost him, or so she thought. A knock at the door made her sit up quickly. She opened it only to find a personal driver in a luxury suit. Miss Ada, he said with a polite bow. Mr. Emika has requested your presence at a private lounge. Adiz's heart skipped a beat. Emika wanted to see her. She hesitated. Should she go? Then she remembered the way he had always defended her. The way he had always protected her. Taking a deep breath, she nodded. Take Timmy to him. The private lounge was unlike anything Adiz had ever seen. Soft golden lights, a beautiful candle-lit dinner, a breathtaking view of the city skyline, and standing in the center of it all, Emika. Adiz froze, her breath catching. He looked at her with a soft smile, one she had never seen before. Adiz, I've been waiting for you, he said gently, walking toward her. Adiz swallowed hard. Before she could finish, I did something that made her heart stop completely. He got down on one knee. Adiz's eyes filled with tears. She covered her mouth as Emika pulled out a beautiful diamond ring. I don't care what the world says. I don't care about the fake rumors. I only care about you. Adiz's heart pounded. Emika's voice was filled with emotion. You are the strongest, kindest person I've ever met. Not only have you impacted my grandmother's fury changed mine. Ada's tears slipped down her cheeks. Emika took a deep breath. Ada, will you marry me? Adiz let out a shaky breath. Then with a small tearful smile, she whispered, yes. Emika's eyes lit up as he slid the ring onto her finger. Then in front of the beautiful city lights, he pulled her into his arms and kissed her like she was his entire world. Adiz had lost everything before, but now she had found something greater. She had found love. The moment Adiz and Emika's engagement was announced, it spread like wildfire. Billionaire Emika engaged to ex-jewelry assistant, the modern Cinderella story. Social media exploded. Some people cheered for Adiz, praising her kindness and humility. But no one was more shocked and bitter than Blessing. She was fixing her makeup at the jewelry shop when she saw the headline flash across her phone screen. She froze, staring at the words, Adiz engaged to Emika, the same Ada she had humiliated and fired. Yvonne's hand trembled, the lipstick falling from her grip. No, she whispered. That's impossible. Her mind raced. How had this happened? How had the girl she looked down on, the girl she had mocked and bullied, ended up winning everything? Before she could process it, the doors of the shop swung open. Emika and Ada walked in. The shop fell silent as the staff stared in shock at the couple standing before them. Emika, tall and powerful, held Ada's hand, his presence commanding respect. Yvonne's throat went dry. Ada was dressed elegantly, her engagement ring glittering under the lights. The same girl Yvonne had once treated like a nobody. Now she was the future Mrs. Okafor. Yvonne forced a smile, her voice overly sweet. Mr. Emika, Miss Adiz, what an unexpected surprise. Emika's eyes narrowed coldly. I came here for one reason. Yvonne, he said, his voice sharp as a blade. Oh, of course, sir. Anything. Emika crossed his arms. You insulted my grandmother. You look down on people because of their appearance. You bullied an employee who did nothing wrong. Yvonne's face palled. Emika's voice hardened. I would have fired you a long time ago, but I wanted to tell you myself. Yvonne, you're fired. And let this be a warning. Discrimination and bullying will never be tolerated in my company. Gasps filled the store. Yvonne staggered back, her vision blurring. This was it. She had lost everything. As she watched Adiz and Emika walk away, Yvonne finally remembered the old woman's words. Kindness is more valuable than expensive diamonds. For the first time, she realized she had ruined herself with her own arrogance. While Adiz and Emika continued planning their wedding, another storm was brewing. Chioma, now desperate and full of rage, was not done yet. Though she had been disgraced and thrown out, she still had one last weapon. Her former access. Using her managerial knowledge, she leaked confidential company reports exposing sensitive business deals to the press. Her goal to destroy Crest Group. If she couldn't have Emika, she would ruin him instead. The scandal hit the media instantly. Crest Group in crisis. Is Emika's empire about to fall? Chioma smiled, watching the chaos unfold. But her victory was short-lived because Emika was already tracking her down. Chioma was celebrating in her apartment when she heard it. A loud knock at the door. Her heart pounded. She slowly opened it and froze. Emika stood there, his face icy. Behind him, 2 police officers. Chioma's smile vanished. Emika, she stammered. What are you? Emika tilted his head, his voice cold. You thought I wouldn't find out. I don't know what you're talking about. Emika held up his phone, showing evidence of the hack traced directly to her. Game over, he said. The officers stepped forward, placing handcuffs around Chioma's wrists. She screamed. No, you can't do this. This to me. Emika's expression did not change. You don't know what love is, Chadima, he said simply. No, I cannot please. As the officers dragged her away, Chioma's world crumbled completely. She had lost for good. The day after Chioma's arrest, Ngozi sat quietly in the mansion, reflecting on everything. Ada had been humiliated, framed, and tested, but she had never broken. She had refused money. She had walked away with dignity. Ngozi finally realized Ada was exactly the kind of woman her son needed. That evening, she called Ada into the sitting room. Ada sat nervously. Instead, Ngozi looked at her with calm eyes. I misjudged you, she said softly. Ada blinked in shock. My son is truly lucky to have you, Ngozi admitted. And I hope that one day you will allow me to be part of your life as well. Ada's eyes filled with tears. For the first time, Mama Emika had accepted her. She stood up and hesitantly wrapped her arms around Emika's mother. Ngozi stiffened at first, then slowly she hugged Ada back. Emika, watching from the doorway, smiled to himself. Ada had won over everyone, and now nothing stood in the way of their happily ever after. The day of Ada and Emika's wedding arrived, and it was nothing short of legendary. It was the biggest event in the country, drawing in royalty and the world's most elite guests. Cameras flashed as luxury cars and limousines arrived at the Grand Cathedral. The floral arrangements cost millions. The chandeliers glittered like diamonds, and the guests were treated like royalty. But nothing compared to Ada. Dressed in a custom-made couture gown, she stepped out of the luxurious bridal car, her gown flowing like a river of stars encrusted with pearls. A tiara rested on her head, one specially designed for her, a symbol that she was no longer just a simple girl. She was now Ada, the future queen of high society. As she walked down the aisle, everyone rose to their feet. The same people who had once mocked her were now cheering for her. And at the end of the aisle, Emika stood waiting, his eyes were locked on her, his heart pounding. She was the most beautiful thing he had ever seen. As the ceremony neared its final moments, the old woman stepped forward. The entire hall went silent. In her hands, she held a small antique box. Adiz, my dear, she said warmly. From the first day I met you, I knew you were special. You showed kindness when no one else did, and today you are becoming part of our family. She opened the box. Inside was a rare, priceless heirloom, a golden brooch encrusted with sapphires. This belongs to the woman who will carry our family's legacy. And today I give it to you." Adi's eyes filled with tears as she pinned it to her gown. "Welcome to the family, Ada," she said. The guests erupted into applause, but the most important gift was yet to come. As the reception began, Emeka took Adi's hand and led her to the center of the ballroom. "I have something for you," he murmured. He reached into a velvet box and lifted the most stunning diamond necklace anyone had ever seen. It was called the Ocean Front, a masterpiece of rare blue diamonds worth $30 million. Adi's breath caught. "This is too much," she whispered. But Emeka gently placed the necklace around her neck. He then looked into her eyes, his voice deep with raw emotion. "You are the only woman I will ever love," he said. "And my love for you is as deep as the ocean." Adi's heart pounded. A tear slipped from her eye, and I gently wiped it away. "You changed my life," he continued. "You gave me something money never could, a reason to love." Ada threw her arms around him, whispering, "I love you, too." And then Emeka kissed her. It wasn't just a kiss. It was a promise. The entire room erupted in applause, fireworks bursting outside. Among the crowd, Ada's former co-workers stood watching in absolute shock. Yvonne and the others, the nobody they had mocked, was now the most powerful woman in high society. At the edge of the ballroom, the old woman smiled, her heart full of pride. "Good things happen to good people," she whispered. Adi's and Emeka would have a love story for the ages. 1 year had passed since the wedding day, and the life of Ada had changed completely. She was no longer the girl who worked in a jewelry shop. She was now a woman with a mission. Ada stood in the middle of a large, beautiful hall. It was the opening of the Kind Heart Foundation. Emeka had helped her build it so that she could help people who were struggling, just like she used to. The hall was filled with young men and women who had no jobs and no hope. Ada looked at them and smiled. "I know how it feels to have nothing," she said into the microphone. "But I want you to know that your current situation is not your final destination. Always choose kindness even when the world is cruel to you." The crowd cheered and Ada felt a warm hand on her waist. She turned to see Emeka looking at her with so much pride in his eyes. He had become even more successful, but he always made time for her. After the event, they drove back to the mansion. As they walked through the front doors, they saw Ngozi and the old woman sitting together in the garden drinking tea. Ngozi had changed so much. She was no longer cold or arrogant. She had become Adi's biggest supporter. "Welcome home, my children," Ngozi said warmly. The old woman clapped her hands. "Adi's, come and sit with us. We have much to talk about." Adi sat down, feeling the peace of the afternoon sun. She looked at the diamond ring on her finger and remembered the day she gave a cup of water to a poor old woman. It was a simple act, but it had led her to this beautiful life. Later that evening, Emeka took Ada to the balcony of their private room. The stars were bright and the city lights below were glowing. "I have a surprise for you," Emeka whispered. He pulled out a small document. Ada opened it and gasped. It was the deed to the jewelry shop where she used to work. "I bought it for you. I know how much it meant to you. Now you can run it the way it should be run, with respect and kindness. Everyone who walks through those doors." Adi's eyes filled with tears of joy. She thought about how she would hire people who really needed a chance. She would make sure that no one was ever treated the way Blessing had treated her. "Thank you, Emeka," she whispered. "You always know what my heart needs." Emeka kissed her forehead. "Ada, there is one more thing. My grandmother told me today that she is ready for a new legacy. And I think I am ready, too. And I think I am ready, too." Ada smiled, understanding what he meant. They were ready to start their own family, to teach their children the same lessons the old woman had taught them. They wanted to raise children who would see the heart of a person, not just their clothes or their money. The world was big and full of challenges, but as long as they had each other and their kind hearts, they knew they would be okay. As the night grew quiet, Ada looked out at the horizon. She realized that her story was not just about luck. It was about staying good even when things were bad. She had won the heart of a billionaire, but more importantly, she had won the respect of a family and the love of a community. She was Ada, a woman of grace, a woman of strength, and a woman of kindness. And as she stood there in the arms of the men she loved, she knew that her life was truly a gift. The old woman's words echoed in her mind one last time. Good things happen to good people. And Adiz knew without a doubt that it was the truth. She and Ia would continue to build a world where kindness was the most valuable jewelry of all. Their love story would be told for many years. A story of hope for anyone who felt like a nobody. If this story touched you today, take a moment to like the video, subscribe to Tales by Uncle Frank, and share it with someone who might need a little hope right now. And in the comments, tell us who was the person who believed in you when you needed it.